Welcome to our continuing series Questions and Answers from the works of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. Today's subject is Consciousness, Part 13. From Sri Aurobindo. There is a force which accompanies the growth of the new consciousness and at once grows with it and helps it to come about and to perfect itself. This force is the Yoga Shakti. It is here coiled up and asleep in all the centers of our inner being, chakras, and is at the base what is called in the Tantras the Kundalini Shakti. But it is also above us, above our head, as the divine force, not there coiled up, involved, asleep, but awake, scient, potent, extended, and wide. It is there waiting for manifestation, and to this force we have to open ourselves, to the power of the Mother. In the mind, it manifests itself as a divine mind force or a universal mind force, and it can do everything that the personal mind cannot do. It is then the yogic mind force. When it manifests and acts in the vital or the physical in the same way, it is there apparent as a yogic life force or a yogic body force. It can awake in all these forms, bursting outwards and upwards, extending itself into wideness from below, or it can descend and become there a definite power for things. It can pour downwards into the body, working, establishing its reign, extending into wideness from above, link the lowest in us with the highest above us, release the individual into a cosmic universality or into absoluteness and transcendence. There is a yogic Shakti lying coiled or asleep in the inner body, not active. When one does yoga, this force uncoils itself and rises upward to meet the divine consciousness and force that are waiting above us. When this happens, when the awakened Yoga Shakti arises, it is often felt like a snake uncoiling and standing up straight and lifting itself more and more upwards. When it meets the divine consciousness above, then the force of the divine consciousness can more easily descend into the body and be felt working there to change the nature. The feeling of your body and eyes being drawn upwards is part of the same movement. It is the inner consciousness in the body and the inner subtle sight in the body that are looking and moving upward and trying to meet the divine consciousness and the divine seeing above. That rising above the head is very good. Such risings help to break down the lid between the higher and lower planes in the consciousness and prepare the wideness. What is to be done depends on where the block is. There are two movements that are necessary. One is the ascent through the increasing of peace and silence to its source above the mind, that is indicated by the tendency of the consciousness to rise out of the body to the top of the head, and above where it is easy to realize the self in all its stillness and liberation and wideness, and to open to the other powers of the higher consciousness. The other is the descent of the peace, silence, the spiritual freedom and wideness, and the powers of the higher consciousness as they develop into the lower, down to the most physical and even the subconscient. To both of these movements there can be a block above due to the mind and lower nature being unhabituated. It is that really and not incapacity. And the block below due to the physical consciousness and its natural slowness to change. Everybody has these blocks, but by persistent will, aspiration, or abhyasa, they can be overcome. Wideness is a sign of the extension of consciousness out of the ordinary limits. Whiteness of the wideness means that it is the pure consciousness one is feeling, unless it is white light or luminous light which indicates the mother's consciousness there or some influence of it. The subtle barrier you felt must have been the same thing that prevents your ascent from the heart, and from it your going beyond into the regions above. There is always a sort of a lid there, and it is only when that is opened or disappears that one can go freely above. One can be aware of unseen wideness, but one is not a self there until that is done.